Hello, first graders. I hope you have your writing paper out ready to go. Hopefully, mom or dad or somebody were able to write lines on your paper for you. Remember, we are not writing in our writing journals. No writing journal. You should have a spiral notebook or some extra paper. I know some people have paper with already the dotted line inside. Those are all great options. Making sure you're sitting up straight and tall. Tuck your chair in right underneath you, making sure your stomach is touching your table and your back is touching the back of your chair. You want to be like a sandwich, a nice tight little sandwich. All right. The first sound that we are going to write is a-a-ah. Say it with me. A-a-ah. Go ahead and write it on the first line and see if you get it right. Did you write, starting at 2 o'clock, around the clock, back up to 2, and pull straight down to the baseline? An A? A-A-ah. Double checking that your A is touching the dotted line. We don't want a little tiny baby A, and it's touching that bottom line. A-A-ah. A-A-ah. And make sure A-A-ah. Oh! This one's a little bit tall. No big deal. I just cross it off and I keep on going. It's okay to make mistakes. We learn from our mistakes, and actually our brain grows even bigger if we make a mistake and fix it. A-A-ah. If you have not gotten to the end of the line, go ahead and pause the video. The next sound is ah-oh-oo. Say it with me. Ah-oh-oo. Go ahead and write it. See if you know it on your own. Did you start at 2 o'clock and go around the clock back up to 2 o'clock? It's an O. Ah-oh-oo. This one's a perfect clock letter. Ah-oh-oo. Ah-oh-oo. Double checking it's touching that dotted line and the bottom line. Making sure, ah-oh-oo. Oh, goodness, that one's hanging down a little bit too far. That's okay. We just cross it off and we just try again. No big deal. Ah-oh-oo. Ah-oh-oo. Oops, that was a little bit skinny. No big deal. We cross it off and try it again. Ah-oh-oo. If you are not to the end of the line, go ahead and push pause. Alrighty. Moving on to our next sound. The next sound is go ahead and say it. Go ahead and write it. Let's see if you know what letter says This is a tall letter, so we're going to be starting at the top line. Pull straight down to the baseline, making sure you go up to that midpoint, up and over the top of the clock, and down to the bottom line again. So this clock letter, like this O, should be able to fit right inside. You want to make sure that your H is not super skinny like that. It's okay if it is. Just cross it off and try again. Straight down. Do not pick up your pencil. Trace it back up and over the clock and down. Down, up, over the clock and down. Down, up, over the clock and down. And we say, Nice job, friends. If you are not to the end of the line, go ahead and push pause now. The next sound is I. Say it with me. I. Go ahead and write it. What letter says I? See if you know it on your own. This one's one of our easy peasy lemon squeezy ones to write because we just start right at the midpoint, pull straight down, pick up your pencil, and float that dot. Start at the midpoint, straight down, pick up your pencil, and float that dot. All you have to make sure of is, oh, do you see how this one's a little bit tall? We don't want that one. Oh, make sure, oh, that one's hanging down a little bit. Now with one like this, you could just give it a haircut and you could erase that part. I'm writing with pen so that you can see it. I want you to write with pencil all the time. But you could have just erased that a little bit. We want to start at that middle point, down to the baseline, float that dot, and we say I. 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 I love how when I look across, all my dots are in a straight line. Are your dots in a straight line? If they're not, that's okay. Don't cross it off. But tomorrow, that will be a new goal, is to make sure that your dots are all at the same spot. If you're not to the end of the line, go ahead and push pause. The next sound is s, z. Say it with me. S, z. Go ahead and write it and see if you know what letter says s, z. So did you start with 2 o'clock, up and over the top of the clock, diagonal around the bottom of the clock? It's an S. Starting at 2, up and over, diagonal around the bottom. Up and over, diagonal around the bottom. And we go s, z, s, z. Now I know that there's a lot of lines to try and squeeze into this small space, but really try to make sure that it fits, that you don't go above this middle line and you don't go below the baseline. S, z, s, z. Okay, if you have not gotten to the end of the line, go ahead and push pause. The next sound is e. Say it with me. E. Go ahead and write it. Did you know that this was an E going straight across, up and around the clock, stopping at 4 o'clock? I'm still seeing friends turning in their phonics paper with a round E. This E right here is not going to poke me. This E will poke me. This E is not the one we want to see. We want to see a pokey E. So this is how you do it. Straight across. And then you need like a corner. You're going to turn directions, go turn directions and go around the clock. Straight across. Turn directions and go around the clock. You want to see a pokey E. Is your E pokey? Straight across, around, pokey. It needs to have a point right here. E. Go ahead and practice those. If you're not to the end of the line, then go ahead and push pause really fast. All right. The next sound is g, j. Say it with me. G, j. Go ahead and write the letter. What letter says g, j? All right, let's see. Did you start at 2 o'clock? Around the clock, back up to 2. Then we pull down and around the bottom of the clock, making sure that tail is resting on that next line. It's a G. Were you able to do a G for g, j? Starting at 2, around the clock to 2, down and around the clock. 2, around the clock to 2, down and around the clock. 2, around the clock to 2, down and around the clock. And I say g, j. G, j. G, j. If you have not gotten to the end of the line yet, go ahead and push pause. And we have one more letter sound. Our last sound is the letter that just says j. So this last one said g, j. This next one only says j. What letter is that? Go ahead and write it. J. So I can't remember if we've written this one before, actually. So let me go through this one with you. It's very, very similar to the G, but there's no ball on it here. Okay, so you start at the middle point here, and you pull straight down to the next line, and you go around the bottom of the clock, just like the tail on the G. But then we start to incorporate the I. It's almost a mixture between the I and the G together makes the J. So you pick up your pencil and you float your dot. Let's try that again. Starting at the middle point, pull down and around the bottom of the clock, float your dot. Pull down around the bottom of the clock, float your dot. And we say J. J. And just making sure this bottom tail is nice and fat so you can fit a clock in there. And we say J. J. All right, if you are not to the end of the line, go ahead and push pause. So for our last line on our paper today, we are going to be writing a sentence, a simple statement. And the reason I tell you it's a statement is because if it's a regular statement, it just has a period at the end. Of course, all sentences start with a capital letter, and they all end with some sort of punctuation. For a regular statement, it's going to end with a period. So get your fist up. We are going to say the sentence together and count the words. The sentence is, I can hop. Say it with me. I can hop. Say it again. I can hop. How many words are in this sentence? 3 words, and it's a regular sentence. So let's go through the first word. The first word is I. Not only is it the beginning of a sentence, but it's also talking about you, and you're an important person. When I say I am an important person, so that needs to be a capital. Can is the next word, so let's sound that out. K, a, n. So you want to use k, s. You want to use a, and you want to use n. Can. The last word is hop. So p. Let's go through that. Use the letter that says o, u, and then use the letter that says p. All right. I can hop. Go ahead and start writing your sentence. I can hop. So we want to make sure that we have a capital I. We pull straight down, pick up your pencil, trace the top line, trace the bottom line. That is a capital I. We want to do a finger space. Can. Starting at 2 o'clock, around the clock to 4. Straight down and up and over the top of the clock. Can. Hop. Start at the top line, pull straight down, trace it up and over the top of the clock. Use o, u, and p. Pull straight down. You want to trace it back up around the clock and give it a tuck. I can hop. Did you remember to do a period sitting right on the baseline? Because this is a simple statement. I can hop. If you were able to write I can hop, give yourself a star or a smiley face. If not, go ahead and fix your sentence now. Nice work today, friends. I will see you tomorrow for phonics.